Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to episode 3 of Chainsaw Man. Last time, we met some of our new characters. We met Power, we met Aki, and we definitely got to bring Denji more into, well, a better world than he came from. And I think episode 2 was notably better than the first. It allowed the characters to breathe a lot more without having to do as much setup and as much legwork. It was more personable, more entertaining, more funny, and it didn't need all the badass action and everything. That's just a cherry on top of what this series is definitely doing best at, and that is its characters, really. Because I made like a 4-paragraph defense of Denji in response to a YouTube comment I got. And I'm not trying to call anyone out here. I'm not trying to be mean or anything. I'm not like saying that the person I was responding to was wrong or bad or anything, because obviously it's all subjective, it's all opinion, all based on personal tastes. But this person stated that they couldn't get into Denji because of him being, horny. Very horny as a character. And it's like, it was just too much for them. And that's completely fine. That's a completely fine, completely valid perspective. But I went on defense because I wanted to explain my view of it. You have to realize and I'm going to share my view here. Keep in mind, if your view is different, that's perfectly fine, but I want to share my view. Keep in mind that Denji grew up with nothing. No family, no friends outside of Pochita, no real house, no real food, nothing. He had nothing. And on top of that, he was basically enslaved by the Yakuza from a young age, having to not only become a devil hunter just to survive, but also sell multiple body parts and be constantly on the clock to where he's barely even able to sleep, as we see in episode 1. He doesn't really get as much rest time either, because he has to constantly be paying off this debt of his father's. And it's just, he has no real way to stop this. He has nothing. As we find out in episode 2, he's never even tasted udon or a sausage before. Foods that are pretty normal and common. So, you have to realize, Denji had nothing. He had nothing, he had no one, and he didn't even have consistent enough interaction with people to be able to interact in a normal way. We see that through his interactions with the few people he does know in the first episode. The Yakuza boss, he sees as someone he is servile to. He doesn't act normal around him. He acts like a scared kid, and rightfully so. And on top of that, there's the one other guy in the car with the boss. He's like, "Oh, I'll give you money if you eat this cigarette." And Denji's first response is like, "Ooh, yeah, money." And it's like, that I need that. And he's super excited. He acts weird about it and everything because he doesn't know how to interact with people. He never really learned that. He never went to school, as we find out in episode 2. He has had the worst possible life. So when he finally gets a taste of, his dreams being accomplished, getting to live a normal life, getting to take a bath, getting to eat toast with all kinds of jams and butters and cinnamon on it, getting to hang around a girl that he finds attractive. He's going to take full advantage of it. And his mind, because of, let's be honest, how stunted it is, because of the lack of education, the lack of proper treatment growing up, his mind is not as properly grown as it should be. Because of that, he's going to be acting a lot on his instinctual mannerisms and thoughts. He's a teenager. He has all those hormones going through. So yeah, he's going to be thinking like a horny teenager, except unlike a lot of people, he's not going to have kind of that mental capacity to hold back on that as much. And mind you, he clearly is showing that he's not going to like just assault someone. He's definitely not going to do that. He clearly wants to do it right. He's even like making these plans for a way he can do it with, you know, without doing anything wrong. He wants to respect their boundaries, Makima and Power. And I like that. It shows that he's horny, but he's not a bad guy. He has his limits based on ethical, limitations. It allows him to stand out from other characters in various media, and especially anime, who are just, you know, pests. Denji isn't like that. And as I've stated as well, I believe I stated this last time, horniness in general is not a negative. So many people like to paint it as a negative, but that's because of cultural ideologies that have been forced into us for so long. Because when Christianity, let's be honest, ruled the government and the schools and everything, they started to force this idea of abstinence and this idea of sexuality being a negative into our culture. And even though culturally we're not ruled by Christianity anymore, we have kept a lot of, let's be honest, a lot of things from that time. And one of which being the kind of taboo that is seen with sexuality. And it sucks. It's terrible. Because there's nothing wrong with sexuality. Again, as long as you're not assaulting anyone or just like, you know, fucking in the middle of the street, there's nothing wrong with embracing sexuality. There's nothing wrong with sex workers. There's nothing wrong with being horny. Again, it just depends on how you handle it, and Denji's handling it well. I've only seen 2 episodes of this, and I have like almost no context with the manga at all, yet it's given me enough to want to defend this character. I sympathize greatly with his plights, and I want to defend him. And that's the sign of a good show, I'll tell you that much. At least so far. Anything can happen, of course. I hope it continues to be really great, but still. I know there's other characters we have yet to be introduced to just based on the opening and stuff. So I don't know if we'll meet any more of them right away or if they'll come later. But I definitely want to see more of Power in action. I want to see Power actually interact with Aki as well. There's just a lot I want to see going forward. But I really like what they're doing with the characters here, and this entire rambling on Denji and everything in my defense of him is because that is definitely the strong suit with this. Not the animation, though that is great. Not the action, though that is great. Not the badassery. Again, it is great. But the true appeal of this, at least for me, is the character work. And even just beyond Denji, it's like characters like Aki Power and even Makima are being like subtly hinted at as having a lot more depth than they let on. I mean, Aki definitely more so than the others, having been given a little more, hearing about his family being slaughtered by devils in front of him and stuff. But there's definitely little kernels there for Power and Makima too. And I'm definitely Team Power when it comes to the battle of the girls there, because I don't trust Makima. And I noticed something since the last episode, by the way. Power is a fiend, right? I want to mention that this is the last thing I'm going to touch on. Power is a fiend, and fiends have noticeable features that cause them to stand out from humans, especially in the head. Obviously, the biggest features with Power are her teeth, though that's not as big a thing because Denji also has that, to be fair. But also her horns and her eyes. If you notice, Power's eyes are very distinctive. And that raises a major question because Makima's eyes look almost just like Power's. Why do Makima's eyes look almost just like hers? A fiend's. When no one else's eyes look like that. Is this implying that Makima might be a fiend? And if so, where's her distinctive features on her head? And if that's not the case, could she be a devil or something even maybe closer to Denji? Either way, the eyes are definitely something that really stand out there, especially because of the opening. The opening actually pays a good amount of attention to Makima's eyes. So, I already didn't trust Makima. But now with that little tidbit I realized in between episodes 2 and now, I really don't trust her. I think that she is not a good person. I'm on the fence and thinking whether or not she's a person in the first place, a human at least. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know for sure. I'm just going based off of the little bit of information we've gotten on like fiends and devils and stuff, and the fact that Makima just acts suspicious as fuck. I could be completely wrong. Obviously, if you know from the manga, do not tell me. I don't want to actually be spoiled on that. There are like, I think maybe 2 things I do know from the future. And I already wish I didn't know that much. So please, no spoilers. Do not tell me if I'm right or wrong or not. But either way, we're just going to get into this and hope for the best with this episode. So, when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black, then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So yeah, Power is very clearly trying to be this tough, badass, unfeeling devil and everything still. But she's softened a lot, and it's very clear. It's very clear that she fell in love with Meowie after Meowie showed her love, first creature to ever do so. And so she was determined to get him back from the Bat Devil. Even to the point of tricking Denji into helping her do so. But when she sees Meowie get swallowed whole, she loses all hope and just gives up, allowing herself to be eaten as well because she has nothing left to live for. And it's really sad. But it also shows the kind of character Power is. Again, she's putting up this facade. She's putting up this act of being tough and badass and cool, and she can be that way. But we see the softer side to her that allows her to connect with others, others who show her some sense of loyalty and love. And I think that's where her and Denji's relationship is going to go. I think Denji's going to actually start to show the same, because I think he's actually very much similar to her. We see it in this episode where he's like kind of saying the same kind of things. You think I care about this random person, and so on and so forth. And you know Denji does care. You know Denji's a good guy. But he's saying all this, I think, possibly because of the influence of, being a part devil at the time when he's in Chainsaw Man's forms. Because he definitely, he gets that kind of devil-like personality add-on to his own when he goes when he takes the form of Chainsaw Man. It's very clear that he's kind of let go of a lot of his, I guess you could say, humanity in a way. So when he says this stuff while as Chainsaw Man, it's, again, pretty damn clear that Denji doesn't mean it. And it's kind of the devil influence within him. But you could see that Denji is still in control. His mind is just kind of being influenced by the devil half of himself. And so it's a really complicated, interesting, like Maki would said, he's very interesting. It's an interesting little personality switch. And we saw that in the first episode, too. When he became the Chainsaw Man for the first time, we saw he let loose and his personality very much changed. It's the same thing here. We could see that Denji sometimes tries to act tough as well. And in the as Chainsaw Man, he very clearly tries to not act like he cares, but he does. So I think he and Power have that in common, and I think that's why they're going to end up getting along really well, now that he's presumably saved her from the Bad Devil's stomach, now that the Bad Devil's been killed. And there's multiple times even we see him, even as Chainsaw Man, telling people to run. Like, you could tell he's very much helping. Even when the Bat Devil throws the car at him, like, he actively, even though he doesn't know that it works like that at first, he does retract his chainsaws because he knows he doesn't want to kill this person. Even though he says, like, oh, I don't care about this person right after, he doesn't actually want to kill him. So it's like, I really like that kind of interesting nature to him that we're being shown here. This episode didn't introduce any new characters. We got a little bit of Makima and Aki in it as well, just with Makima kind of explaining how she finds Denji interesting and, reporting to her superiors. But the big meat of this was definitely with characterizing Power a lot more. Because we got very little of her in the last episode, so this episode was doing a lot of the heavy lifting with just giving her a lot more character and depth and making her even more likable. Like, even after the last episode, I was already on Team Power over Team Makima, just because I didn't trust Makima and Power was hilarious. But now I'm even more so in line with that. Power is such a much more likable character. She has a lot more positive depth to her that I enjoy. And again, I just don't trust Makima at all. Much more so now, since I originally reacted to episode 2. I've actually started to trust her less because I noticed the eye thing. And it's like, yeah, I very much do not trust you. So, it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. going to be interesting to see more of what this has in store for us as we continue forward. But I would love to hear your thoughts. I would love to know what you think of this episode. So let me know down in the comments below. And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.